Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Happy Tuesday, Tom.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday to you, Bob.
Can you hear some banging behind me?
Not at the moment.
Okay, good.
I heard it earlier.
I can hear it loudly, but if it's not bothering you, that's great.
That I heard.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to power through it.
Whether it's crickets or people banging in the background, it's all right. We'll get through it because we're going to provide people with an antidote.
That's it.
Today's antidote, the one thing that's going to help them get through. Yeah. One of the things that might help us get through is if I got rid of my cricket and you ask that person not to start banging. But
yeah, that's not going to happen.
And that's all right. We'll adjust. So welcome to our show today. If you are listening on a podcast, we hope that you're having a great day. We also hope that you will share it with family and friends who you think might be considering themselves to be renegades, but aren't quite sure. And they are looking for that one thing to help push them over the top. And if you're watching it today, I hope that you will feel free to comment in Facebook or on YouTube as we go through the discussion and offer your one thing as well at the end of the day. So with that, as we do every show, Bob, what are we celebrating today?
You're going to like this one, Tom. You're going to have to go to science class today. It is National Diatomaceous Earth Day. Now, you may be like me and say, hey, what does diatomaceous mean? Well, I'm about to tell you. You ready?
I'm ready.
It is diatomaceous earth is a sedimentary rock, and it's all over the world. Sometimes it's used as a filter for swimming pools or as a natural insecticide. Biologists understand diatoms, which are single-celled plants. They form diatomaceous earth and are indeed the lungs of the earth. Amazingly, diatoms produce about 3/4 of the world's new oxygen supply. So that's pretty critical to our life. How's that for one?
So our celebration today is about a rock.
A rock that creates 3/4 of the oxygen we breathe. That's pretty important stuff.
Okay. I'm with you.
Right? I mean, if we only had 1/4 of the oxygen, we wouldn't all be breathing.
Or we'd be breathing slower.
I don't know. The minute you tell me there's a limit on oxygen, that's not when I slow down my breathing. It's usually when I speed it up.
That's fair. Interesting. Yeah. I wonder whose decision that was to make that a national day. I guess it's worth celebrating. That's because one of the reasons we're all able to be here.
Well, and I think it calls attention to something that we probably haven't thought about. You know, so diatoms die and they fall to the bottom of bodies of water, and then they form deposits. Over time, the organic portions of the diatoms weather away. The remaining opal frustules form diatomaceous earth. Some of the largest deposits in the U.S. formed in ancient lakes in California, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. They also formed in oceans and occur along the coast of North and South America.
What are diatoms?
What are what?
Diatoms, the things that have to
they
die.
They are single-celled plants that form the diatomaceous earth.
Interesting. So if you're homeschooling your kids right now, just tell them to listen to this episode. Science class, done for the day. They can move forward. They can go do some research on diatoms and why they are so valuable to human life. Fascinating. Thank you, Bob, for sharing.
Well, you know, every now and then we should learn something, right?
We should learn something every day. Absolutely. At least one.
Or be reintroduced to something that may have crossed our path in elementary school and we've long forgotten it, which happens to me all the time.
Isn't there a book out that says something like everything I learned Everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten or something like that.
Yeah.
Butchered the title of that.
All right, so let's get to the topic, Tom.
Okay, our topic is when they say yes and why it happens. A little bit of why people say yes. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this, Bob.
Why do people say yes?
Correct.
Okay, my first thought, just and believe it or not, I didn't know the exact topic until right now, so my thoughts are coming pretty fresh. My first thought is because we browbeat them into submission. And they just go, you know what, this guy's not going to leave me alone. So I'm just going to go with it because I'm sick of hearing from him. And maybe if I buy something from him, he will shut up. I think there's a segment of that. I'm not advocating that approach. I don't think that's the best approach to business, but
fair.
I do see it working in some situations, though I don't encourage it at all. I think another reason why people say yes, and this is the really important one, is when their interests or needs align with what you are offering and they can see the direct connection. And when they can see that direct connection, which means we've explained it to them in clear language, their language, ideally, we've explained to them what is possible with what we present to them, and they understand the language, they understand what we're offering, and they also see the possibilities for themselves. When all those things happen, that's when it's really easy to say yes. So I have some work going on at my house. They're putting in storm drains. So from the downspouts under the ground and going to lead to the front of our property. So we'll no longer have water coming into the corner of our house, hopefully. And it'll get rid of a lot of the water that's been hitting our yard, our neighbors' yards. When they explained it to us, it was really clear that this was a good solution to the problem. They listened to what we described, they looked at what we described, and they showed us how this solution, which was not on our list of possibilities, really made sense. We said yes to that. And we said yes in a discussion between my wife and me before we really knew the price. We were pretty much convinced, which is an interesting aspect of this whole saying yes thing, that sometimes the person saying yes before they even know the price. I've had people do that with me before, and it's like, what? Don't you want to know how much it's going to cost? They're like, I'm sure it's reasonable. I'm sure it's fair, because they've already invested in their mind. This is the solution. The cost is not the big factor. And I think that's one of the things around saying yes. When yes is guided primarily by the price, oh, well, I thought it would be less and you drop your price by 50%. I think it also creates the opportunity that they will say yes to someone else who offers them an even lower price.
Possibly, yes. I would agree. I mean, I think, yes, when people are looking at price, you're not showing them enough value.
Right, exactly.
Is that they haven't seen the value in what you offer. And I think that's one of the things to consider, is that somebody says, well, I don't have the money, or I don't, whatever, then they haven't seen the value, or they haven't prioritized.
Yeah.
It's not a high enough priority for them to want to solve the challenge that's in front of them. And so I think that's, one of the things is that understanding, again, why they might be saying maybe or no or not yet helps us get to the yes. So part of that is, I think, the more that we can answer the questions that they have that would cause them to maybe say no, or to put it off, or to give us some other reason, that we have the chance to share with them and help them see why there is a yes that's possible and what a difference that will make.
Well, and I think one of the things I've had to learn for me in talking to people about doing work together is I've had to learn that you ask some questions, and then you get the answers, and then you have to give the person time to process. You and I think about what we do all day long.
Sure.
the person that we're serving does not think about what we're doing much, if ever. So when we start to explain to them, well, we've come up with this and this and this, and we have this Renegade Success Network, and we have this challenge that we're going to do, and we have all these things, they're overwhelmed because suddenly you've opened this door to a big room with all kinds of toys in it, and they don't know which toy to go to first. And sometimes you just have to step back and just give them time to go through all those toys and go, oh, I really like the Xbox. I'd like to play with that. Oh, okay. Let's start there with our relationship. We're going to do whatever equals an Xbox. And then they may go, oh, you know what? I'd really like to play with the Nintendo, or I'd really like to watch a movie on the big screen TV. Okay. But sometimes we are guilty of giving them so much information that they don't even know what they're saying yes to.
Sure. Or too many options.
So I think one of the things that I've had to really think about is when I'm talking to someone about what I do, it's tailoring the discussion to what their need is and how what I'm offering satisfies that one need, not the 18 other needs. These guys, when they came out to our house and told us about doing this work to build drains to go outside, it was very specific. We had talked to other companies about doing other stuff that was more expensive, that wasn't going to solve the problem, we didn't think. And so when they came in with this solution, at first I had to step back and go, whoa, why didn't the other people discuss this with us? Well, it wasn't as expensive, for one. Two, it's labor intensive because they're digging about, 130 feet of, a foot deep ground.
Right.
That's real work. And I think some of the other companies we had coming out, they didn't want to do that kind of work. That wasn't their preference. So they steered us to what they're good at. This company, I think, really took time to think about what we needed.
Sure.
And I think that's a real difference. Sometimes we go out and we talk to people. I've done it, and you're not certain they need what you have to offer, but you throw it out there. And then sometimes you start talking about what you do, and the person's like, you're kidding me. Really? Wow. I didn't know that was really, you do that for a living. Yes, that's what I do for a living. Wow, that must be really cool. Tell me about some of your other customers. Well, they're this, because they're trying to figure out, do they fit into it?
Sure. Well, and I think your point about options is an intriguing one. And obviously everyone purchases differently.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were talking about it, I was thinking, have you ever been to a CarMax?
Yes.
So the intriguing thing as you were talking one of the things that I was thinking about was when you go to CarMax, you have multiple options. You could choose from any car, any brand, any size, shape, whatever. And while there is value in that, clearly, and they sell a lot of cars, it is also overwhelming. You get in there and you're like, okay, well, I could look at the Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, every other mid-size sedan car that they have and be like, well, I guess I got to test drive them all to figure out what is the one that's going to work best for me. And I just knew when I was walking that lot, it was overwhelming because there were a bunch of different cars that I liked in the make, model, and not the make, in the size and what it offered and what I was looking for. And in some regards, that led to a lot of confusion. When I walked away from there and said, well, I'll just go to Subaru and look at their car when we were buying our most recent car. And I knew that there was really only one model that I was looking for. And so I could very focus. Now it's about color. It's about mileage. It's about price a little bit. It's about what are other
options that are available. And all. Right.
And it allowed me to really hone in on what I wanted to purchase and what were the problems that it was solving. And I think that in some ways limitation made it easier because I had made the decision this was where I wanted to go. I didn't make that until I left the lot and was able to sort of step back and say, all right, as I think about all of these things, what are the ones that are most important? And I felt like, and I think I went back to that lot at least twice. And each time when I thought I had made a decision, something else came up that I looked at and like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. I hadn't considered that. And now I was back to square one again. And so I think that, as you were saying, that the simpler we can make it for people, as long as it solves their problem, I think the more likely we are going to get a yes.
I couldn't agree more. I think simplicity is the key. I always think of the restaurant that you go to and they have 100 things on the menu versus the restaurant where they have 8 things on the menu. Or just how they categorize them. Look, Chipotle. If you look at their menu, it's really simple. You want the start here, 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 and you go right down the line and you can make your choices. Versus I've been to some Mexican restaurants where there's 18 enchiladas and 14 chalupas and 73 burritos, and the burritos can have refried beans and it just gets complicated. And we don't want complication. When you're trying to solve a problem, if I'm hungry for Mexican food, I don't want it to be complicated. I want to get my meal and eat. The satisfaction is in eating the food, not in going through a 14-page menu. And I get that they have a lot of choices, but sometimes too many choices paralyzes people because they don't know how to prioritize the things they're looking for. And I think that's where we, as people doing any kind of sales, we've got to help the people understand how to prioritize. What does that look like?
It's interesting you were talking about Mexican food and you were talking about all the options. There's a place I know. Now, here's one of the ways that they do a good job of not letting you worry about being overwhelmed. They have a menu that is long. It's multiple pages with multiple things on every page.
Yeah.
And they offer you free chips. And
so you have time to eat your chips and figure out what you want. Right.
Correct. So they almost encourage you to check out all the options. And while you're doing that, we are going to give you all these great chips that are always salty, which means you're probably going to need a beverage. And I think that.
I think I know the Mexican place. Once you said that, I know exactly what you mean.
It is very, it allows me not to get overwhelmed because I'm like, well, I got lots of time. I can sit here and I'm not pressured to, here's the short menu. The waitress is coming right over, waiter's coming right over, and they are looking for your solution, which my wife hates because I always have a hard time deciding, even though I know exactly what I'm going to get. And usually the options that I'm considering are pretty limited.
But when you think it through, Tom, we can do the same thing in business by
Sure.
having a webinar, by having a free opportunity, by giving them a taste of what we offer. If you look at tile, you go to the tile store and you look at a million tiles, they say, oh, which 3 or 4 are you thinking about? You say these, oh, would you like to take a sample of that home so you can see it in your space?
Right.
Haven't committed to buying, they're just helping you move along that pathway. And I think part of that, how do you get to that yes, is that pathway. What is the logical customer pathway that you can help them understand, that makes sense to them because you understand your customer well? So I know my customers, there's certain things that they're going to go through. There's a, well, no, yeah, this, no. And I've got to help them through that. So I will text them, hey, you may be thinking this right now. If you are, give me a call.
Sure.
I get calls from people on that. Like, how'd you know? I know because I understand my customer. And most of us understand our customer pretty well, but we all take advantage of the opportunities that gives us to help them. We think about it as we know what they want, we know what they need, and we say to them, oh, well, this is what you need. But I prefer when someone says to me, hey, here's what I'm thinking for you. What are your thoughts about it? And let me get to the place where that fits.
Sure.
That's a big part of yes, because I feel better about the yes that I give when I've been involved in that decision and really thought it through. And then it's a firm yes. It's not a, well, I kind of think this would work.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So Tom, it's one of my favorite parts of the program. They're all my favorites, but this is where this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where it really rocks and rolls. It's our one thing, our today's antidote. And for those of you who may be on the podcast and this is new to you, our goal with today's antidote from the beginning was to give people one little thing to consider as they move on their pathway towards success, whatever that looks like for them. So Tom, with that preface, what is your dun-dun-dun-dun one thing for today?
So I've been saving this. I've been thinking about this through the whole show. And I said, you know what? Sometimes I sort of give it away early and then go back and say, I'm going to go back to this. This time I chose not to.
Is this going to involve Diatomaceous Earth Day?
No, because I'm not sure I can pronounce that. So I'm staying away from that.
Okay. I was real excited about that.
So I think why it happens, people say yes, and I'm going to try to make this as simple as I can. They say yes when they want to eliminate pain or they want to enhance pleasure. And I think that we so often forget that is a significant piece of it. Is that why did you go right away ahead and buy the repairs for your house? Because you were sick of the water. You got to a point where the pain was too great and you had to solve it.
Yep.
Why do we go on a vacation? Because we're desperately, we have some pain. We're sick and tired of working and we're overwhelmed, whatever. And all we want is more pleasure. So if you can find a way to get people to the point where you are solving the pain, the deep pain that they have, or you're offering them an opportunity for some pleasure, something that they can feel really good about, that can add to their life, you have a really good chance of getting them to say yes.
I like that. I like the pain part and the pleasure part. But what I would also say to that, Tom, is that the pain and pleasure isn't always something that the person realizes. The customer doesn't always understand what the real pain is. It may be a symptom of a bigger pain.
Sure.
It may be, a symptom of something that they don't understand, and helping them to understand that can really be what leads them to that yes. We had a termite inspector out at our house because we thought we had termites. Turned out it was carpenter ants. Okay. If you saw, and we have termite treatment at our house going on for years. It was surprising that we thought we had termites. When you think it through, we thought we had a termite problem because we saw a whole bunch of wood shavings. Guy came in, my wife was there, and he's like, yeah, that's carpenter ants. So we misdiagnosed the problem. The core issue that leads us to it is we want this knot to chew up our whole entire house.
Correct.
That's the issue. So it could have been ants, could have been rodents, could have been any number of things. Doesn't really matter to me. Whatever it is, solve the problem. Put the right treatment down to get rid of whatever that problem is. But we thought until the person came out, it was termites.
And you got to the point where you were so sick of it that you had to do something, right? You had lived with it. You tried something that didn't seem to work. You finally got to the point where you're like, I don't care what we're doing. We are going to get this solved. And I think that's when people decide to say yes, is when they are at that point of either, oh my gosh, I just can't deal with this anymore. Or at that point of, you know what? If I go out and buy that new car, I'm going to feel really good about it. One, it's going to solve a problem because my other car died. And it's going to help me feel a whole lot better. It's one of the things we talk about in the nonprofit space is, people aren't feeling pain necessarily to give. They may see others in pain and want to help with that. But a lot of times they give because it feels good. And they know they are doing something that is benefiting others. And so when we can show in the nonprofit space, when you can show how you are benefiting others and the good feelings that someone is going to feel when they see others or the situation changing is when they really start to be connected, engaged, and make decisions to give.
Nice. Well, Tom, I think we're at the end. I was going to say, for those of you who want to see carpenter ants and what happens, I will post a photo of that in the Facebook group, the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, in the chat here around this, so you can see it for yourself. So if you have not joined our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, hey, this is the chance, because you can see Bob's carpenter ants on the outlet on my back porch. How exciting is that? I mean, how many times you won't see the ants, you'll see the remnants of what they do. Tom, I'm just trying to tease people into joining our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, which, by the way, before you tell us, I'm fairly certain you can confirm this for me, Tom, but it is a private group, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out why that so intrigues you. Anyhow, I think you should
It
post
doesn't
something.
intrigue me at all, Tom. I'm just trying to make the boring part of the program more interesting.
So you're saying that when I share that, it's boring?
It's boring because it's the same thing every day. That's why I'm trying to jazz it up. You know, we agreed when we were at the baseball game, my job is to, how'd we put it? We had a phrase for it.
I don't know. I would
You're
say
kind of the straight man and I'm the funny guy.
The comic relief guy?
Yes, the comic relief. So, you start through that thing and it goes on for a couple minutes. It's like, all right, you know what? I'm losing. I'm starting to get a little droopy here. So I got to perk it up. If you can give me another great word to play on, I will go after that word. But,
here's my thought, I think. And one of our viewers today is trying to get me to celebrate Diatomaceous Earth Day, whatever that is. I think rather than the remnants of the carpenter ants, I think you ought to find a picture of a diatom and put that in there. So people would be like, oh,
I can do that.
That's what that is. Because I have no idea. And tell them about the relevance.
Tim could already put one up for us. Tell me about what?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. What did you say? I'm sorry. You cut off for a second.
I said you could also tell them what value it provides to us, so that people would be like, oh, not just do I see what it is, but now I understand. Again, I'm going along with that theme of, for people who are homeschooling, the Ring of Renegades can be a great place to help your child with some part of their academic day, as well as you. Multiple purposes. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for either tuning in on your favorite
tuning out
station. And we hope that you will subscribe or follow or add comments or even do a review about this podcast, because that will help us continue to get the word out. Also share it with your friends and family who you think might appreciate the celebrations we do and the one thing that we offer at the end of this. If you are watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, please feel free to put a comment, share your one thing, or you can go inside the Ring of Renegades and share it there. As Bob said, it is a private group. So all you have to do is ask to join, and you can become a part of our growing community of people trying to find their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So with that, we will sign off for the day. We hope that you have an amazing day. And if we don't see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, we will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, celebrate the renegading you. Sorry, I forgot. I was trying to put a picture of a diatom in.
What is the phrase?
Sorry. You could celebrate it. Embrace the renegading you.
There we go. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the Renegade.